It is Crocktober. So today I'm trying 3 recipes from the Fix It and Forget It cookbook. This book was originally published in 2001. I have the 2002 version here, but it has not been revised. It's got the same recipes that were published in 2001. And I think this particular book is a slow cooker staple for a lot of people. The recipes are actually crowdsourced. So people submitted their very best slow cooker recipes to be published in this book. So you know you're gonna get some good ones, right? Anyway, we'll talk more about this book a little bit later. Let's get going with the recipes. Macaroni and cheese is such a crowd pleaser, so that's what I'm starting with. And this particular mac and cheese recipe right here is so popular that it was submitted by 6 different people. You can see up here who all sent this recipe in. And that's one of the reasons I chose it, is because if that many people sent it in, it has to be good, I think. So I went ahead and I cooked my macaroni beforehand. You start out with 8 ounces of dry macaroni and you cook it and it makes this much. This is my 2-quart slow cooker and I am making the full recipe this time. I'm actually gonna take this to a little craft meetup that I have with my friends, so hopefully it's good. I've cooked my macaroni, I've placed it in my slow cooker, and now I need to add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and toss that together. I cooked my macaroni for, I think it was like 7 minutes. That was the lowest recommended time on the package, because of course you're gonna cook it more in here, aren't you? I am. I'm doing this. You can do this too if you want. That's good. That really kind of like broke the macaroni apart. It cooled a little bit and kind of stuck together when I put it in the slow cooker, you know, as I was getting ready to film. Stir in remaining ingredients, except hot dogs, which the hot dogs are optional. I'm not putting hot dogs in this. This is gonna be just like regular mac and cheese. So the additional ingredients, that includes a can of evaporated milk, which I have right here, and it says to shake that well. Got my can opener here. Yes. And I'm just gonna pour that whole thing in. I'm really hoping that this will all fit. I think it will. I think it will. I thought I was gonna have to use my big slow cooker for this recipe, but I'm feeling good about this. I think it's gonna fit. Okay, so after that, I have 1.5 cups of just milk. I actually added a little half and half that I had to use up. So I have a blend of 1.5 cups of milk and half and half. Getting full, getting full. I have a teaspoon of salt here as well, going on in. And then it says 3 cups of shredded cheese, cheddar, American, Velveeta, or combination. I opted for a combination. So I have some shredded cheddar in here. I have a little bit of shredded brick cheese that I needed to use up. And then I have just cubed Velveeta. We're getting full, I'm not gonna lie. This is getting up there. So I'm being gentle. It's gonna be fine. Have something else. What do I have? I have melted butter. It says 2 to 4 tablespoons. I went 3 tablespoons just to be sort of in the middle. And finally, I have a little bit of chopped onion, very finely chopped onion. It says 2 tablespoons. I went 1 tablespoon, just it's kind of my personal preference, I think. I'm guessing you could probably also use dehydrated onion or onion powder if you really don't want the onion at all. Okay, we made it. So this recipe will fit into a 2-quart slow cooker. I use this slow cooker, I think, the most. This is like the perfect size for a smaller amount of food or for just 2 people, you know, my little small household here. Okay. It says to cover and cook on low for 2 to 3 hours. We'll see. Okay, my 2-hour timer just went off and I'm feeling pretty good about this. Admittedly, I was not feeling as good about this mac and cheese at 1 hour in. So if you'll recall, I have everything in my slow cooker and the recipe said to cook it on low for 2 hours to start. Well, 1 hour in, I'm looking at it and it's looking very liquidy. It's not warming up a lot. And as I mentioned, I am taking this to a craft night. It's imperative that I have this mac and cheese ready in time. So I made a call. At 1 hour in, I went ahead and I switched the temperature to high. And I'm at home, so I'm keeping a very sharp eye on it and everything. Nothing burned. And I think the texture has improved greatly. It's thick, it's rich. It's a saucy mac and cheese. It's not like more of a baked mac and cheese. I feel like people can have strong preferences one way or the other. This is a saucy gal. I'm ready to try it. I opted not to put hot dogs in this. If you were going to include the hot dogs that they list in the recipe At this point, 2 hours in, you would slice those up, put them in here, and then cook your mac and cheese for an additional hour or so. I'm not doing that. Oh my gosh, I showed you. It looks wonderful. I'm just gonna try a little spoonful because I'm gonna be eating this with my friends probably in about an hour. I'm just gonna give it a stir to make sure that everything's like all together. A little bit. Pretty dang good. Pretty dang good, I must say. So cooking the macaroni for like between 7 and 8 minutes before putting it in the slow cooker, that was the way to go. Because now it is softer, but not too soft, you know? It's not overcooked to mush. If you like it overcooked to mush, that's fine. You can cook your macaroni more. But I think for me personally, it is the perfect texture. The onion is really good in here and it's not crunchy. It did cook. I cut it very small. But you could use onion powder, I think, too, and get the same effect if you don't have onions or you don't like onions. I think there are things you could do to change this up as well. You know, if you want to add like garlic salt or garlic powder, that might be really good too. This is, as it stands, a very good kind of like basic creamy mac and cheese. Just to recap, I used about 4 ounces of a mix of cheddar and brick cheese and then 4 ounces of Velveeta because you can't beat that melt. I really like this. I think this is a pretty dang good mac and cheese recipe if you like a creamy mac and cheese, and I hope my friends enjoy it at our craft night too. I found this recipe from MARILYN'S Queso. It really spoke to me because it only makes 2 cups. And I'm gonna get even a little bit more experimental with it. I'm gonna cut it in half and try to make 1 cup of queso. And I'm gonna try to make this in my little dipper. Now, I don't know if this is gonna work exactly, mostly because the little dipper does not have heat settings on it. It's like a low warm setting. And this recipe actually starts by cooking up some vegetables in water for an hour. And you're supposed to cook those on high. I don't know, we'll see. I'm kind of excited about experimenting with this tiny queso recipe. This is my life, folks. Okay, Marilyn, don't steer me wrong. Let's do this. It says to place the first 5 ingredients in a slow cooker and add water. Okay, so the first 5 ingredients are chopped green pepper. I am using half a tablespoon because I'm cutting this recipe in half, and half a tablespoon of chopped onions, a tablespoon of diced tomatoes. My green peppers and my tomatoes were actually frozen. I do that a lot with vegetables that I know I'm not gonna use up. I will just throw them in my freezer, so it works well with like tomatoes, green peppers, jalapenos, broccoli, cauliflower, even spinach. If I know that spinach is not gonna get used up, I try my best, but it doesn't always happen. Just throw it in the freezer. You're not gonna eat it fresh like a salad, but you can definitely like cook those things in soups and all kinds of things. The spinach works especially well in like a spinach artichoke dip. I also have 1 teaspoon of chopped jalapenos, and I chopped all of this really fine. So let's look. It's just like that little tiny bit, right? Marilyn also included an ingredient that you may know is not my favorite, and that would be chopped celery. You know it's not my thing. I only need half a tablespoon for this recipe, and I know I could buy a whole bunch of celery and then like freeze it. But here's the thing, I don't want to. Here's what I'm gonna do. I have some celery flakes, and when a recipe calls for just a little celery and I don't wanna buy it because I know I'm not gonna eat it, I use a little bit of that. I'm interested to see like if these are gonna rehydrate very well. Like, is it worth using them? I've never made queso with celery in it, but you know, let's honor Marilyn here. I kind of crushed that up a little. I'm just gonna add that. I used a very tiny amount. Let's mix that all in. I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of water to that because remember, I am cutting this recipe in half. And I wanna make sure I have a little bit of stuff stuck to the side. I wanna make sure that gets in the water because all of these things need to cook together. That is what it looks like. I have an errand to run that's gonna take me maybe like an hour or so. So I'm gonna cover this and plug it in. I actually didn't even plug this in because like I said, no heat settings. It just kind of starts heating up when you plug it in. And when I come back, I'm gonna check on these veggies, see if they're tender enough to proceed to the next steps. We're official, the apron is on now. So I stepped away for probably closer to like an hour and 45 minutes. I had the errands to run, I had some lunch, and I took a walk. But I think this worked because I can smell the vegetables in my kitchen. It looks cooked. I'm gonna see if I can like get you in here better. I apologize if this is just a little shaky. I'm just holding the camera But that's what the veggies look like after about an hour and 45 minutes. Marilyn, are you changing my life right now? I really wanted to make this particular recipe. If I haven't said why, it's because of the small quantity. It seems like every other queso dip in this book makes like 12 servings and many cups and quarts and things like that, which is great. If you have a use for that much queso, I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't have a use for that much queso. If you're having a party or something, yes, by all means, make the big batch of queso. But sometimes I just want a little bit. Maybe it's just like me and my husband for a movie night or something. Maybe I just want to have a little me party and have enough for myself, right? So I am so pleased that that seems to have worked. Now we just have to get the rest of it going and make sure the rest of it works and tastes good. But I have a good feeling about Marilyn. I don't think she'd steer me wrong. Stir in cream and cheeses. So I have 3 ounces of heavy cream going on in. You don't drain the vegetables, by the way. That was interesting to me. We're gonna see how this goes. So I'm gonna stir that a bit. And in addition to the heavy cream, I have 4 ounces of Velveeta, good old Velveeta. Cannot beat that melt, right? Oh, ooh, splashing just a little bit. We're gonna be a little more careful. And then I have 1 ounce of finely shredded cheddar cheese. This is medium cheddar. We just buy that giant block of Tillamook cheddar cheese at Costco. And then I wrap it in parchment paper when I store it in my fridge, and it lasts a really long time. Let's give this a stir. So a little bit about the Little Dipper. I personally like it. A lot of people don't because the crock is not removable, but it's kind of like small enough for me that I don't mind washing it out. However, sometimes these are hard to find on their own. And in fact, my Little Dipper actually came with my big slow cooker when I bought it. So I have found something very close in size with a removable crock that I will link in the description down below. I have not used that particular model, but I wanted to find something that was close enough to this so that, you know, if you want one, you can have one without having to buy an additional big slow cooker that maybe you don't need. Okay, this is exciting. I'm gonna cover this. It just says, reduce heat to low. It's already low. Cook until cheese is melted. So it doesn't give a time. I just basically need to cover this and let all that cheese melt, and then it's time to give it a taste. It's been about 45 minutes since I put the cream and the cheeses into my Little Dipper, and this is what we have now. Let's take the lid off. Looking smooth, but let's do a stir test. Yeah, okay, I think that it's all melted. Yeah, that's very exciting. I'm just gonna try it right out of this Little Dipper. I have some leftover kid-sized chips from Chipotle. That's my Chipotle hack. It's not really a hack. Order from the kids menu. I can't eat an entire Chipotle bowl usually, and I don't really like them left over, so a lot of times I'll order like a quesadilla and rice and beans, and it comes with this little bag of chips and a little tiny drink, and it's perfect. Anyway, it's $5. Probably didn't want my fake Chipotle hack, but you got it anyway. Okay, now I'm really gonna try this. Yeah, it's looking very smooth. I'm like stirring it with the chip. I know this is probably not gonna be spicy, by the way. It's not spicy, but it's delicious. I mean, it's queso, it's gotta be good, right? It is absolutely not spicy, which is fine. If that's what you want, you know, this is perfect. You could, I think, sub out like the green pepper, because you have green pepper and jalapeno in here. I think you could leave out the green pepper and bring in more jalapeno pepper if you want it to be a little more zesty. You could add a little pinch of cayenne in there. You know, whatever you want to do to spice it up, you could do that. But I gotta say, it made a nice little quantity, perfect for just a couple people for like a movie night snack, or to pour over nachos. That would be excellent as well. And it's a very nice consistency. You know, I wasn't sure how it was gonna work with the water, but I think because you've combined a little bit of regular cheddar cheese and that melty Velveeta alongside your heavy cream, it makes for a really nice texture. Marilyn, this is a winner. Thank you so much for bringing this into my life. Hey, so it has been a minute since I last filmed. For you, no time has passed, but for me, it's been like a week, over a week actually, partly because I came down with a cold. Maybe you can hear it in my voice, maybe see it on my face. My nose is a little bit red. You know, I was out of the house. I was doing some work unrelated to my channel for a few days. And I'd planned for that in my filming schedule. I was like, yep, I'm gonna be, you know, busy for 3 days. I can pick up filming right after that. What I didn't count on was coming down with this cold, and that's what I get for going out in public, I guess. But anyway, that is where a slow cooker meal can really come in handy. My energy levels are still kind of low, although I am feeling better and the worst of my cold is behind me. You know, I'm not quite up to par yet as far as like doing things. If you have a really great tried and true slow cooker recipe, that's kind of perfect for some time like this when you just need to like throw some things into the slow cooker and walk away. You know, slow cooker meals are great pretty much any time, but like this is a time when maybe you really need something like that. So I'm trying out this recipe for Joyce's slow cooked chili. And this chili starts with ground turkey. I had all of these things on hand. I always have ground turkey in the freezer. So I went ahead and I browned 1 pound of ground turkey. I drained it and I put it in my slow cooker crock. I am cutting this recipe in half, as I often do. And one thing that you can do when you have maybe like a really good deal on ground beef or ground turkey, maybe you can get 3 to 5 pounds at a discount or something like that. If you don't want to freeze all of it raw, you can brown some of it and freeze it, and then use it in something like this chili or a meat sauce or in taco meat or something like that. It's just one step that you can do to kind of like prepare something and make it even a little bit faster. So I have my ground turkey in the crock pot. This is my 2-quart crock pot, as I mentioned before. It's my favorite. And it just, again, says stir in remaining ingredients, much like these other recipes do. So that is a can of kidney beans that I have drained and rinsed and just put them back in the can. And then I have a 14.5-ounce can of diced tomatoes. These are undrained, and I did not grab my can opener one moment. Whoops, I knew I forgot something. I love this can opener, by the way. It's really easy to use. And then it's got these little pinchy things. You can just like pull the lid off. So that's pretty cool. I'll link it if you're interested. This might be another one of those recipes where I'm cutting it close on the size of this slow cooker. So I am gonna stir this and just kind of get the stirring part of it going. The thing is, my next size up of slow cooker is 6 quarts, and it's just like, you know, if I'm gonna cut a recipe in half or make a small amount of food, this just works better for me. I have 4 ounces of tomato sauce, and confession, I thought I had just plain tomato sauce in my pantry, and I didn't. And I have a cold. I'm not going out to the grocery store to buy one little can of plain tomato sauce. I'm using a little bit of pasta sauce because this was in my fridge. So, you know, I think it's gonna be fine. Maybe you don't think it's gonna be fine, but I think it's okay. I'm not having Instacart deliver 1 can of tiny tomato sauce to me right now. So pasta sauce it is. Okay, I've got some chopped onions. I did prep all of these ingredients this morning. Just, you know, when you have a little burst of energy, take advantage of it. So diced onion, that is potent. Oh my. And then I have half of a green pepper, also chopped this morning, and this was frozen. I mentioned that for the queso recipe. Sometimes I freeze vegetables that I know I'm not gonna quite get used up, and they're just fine in something like this. All right, and that brings us to the garlic. There we are. I happen to have fresh garlic on hand, but you could also use frozen garlic or jarred garlic or whatever you want. I like those little frozen garlic cubes though, those are great. And I have a tablespoon of chili powder. I like to use Gebhardt chili powder. That's my favorite. Some of you also recommended, I think it's called Maxine. I did get a hold of some of that. So once this is used up, I will try that as well. Oh my, you know, I think we're gonna make it. It's getting full, but we're gonna be fine. We're just gonna be fine. I have a teaspoon of salt going in, and I have half a teaspoon of black pepper. This is very thick. You know, some of the vegetables are going to give off moisture. I'm excited to try it. I haven't tried this particular recipe. I think chili is one of those things that everybody has kind of like their own way of making it, or it's one of those things where you can kind of throw in a lot of things that approximate what is in a chili and it comes out okay. And I know people are maybe going to tell me things about having beans in this, but there's also, it's ground turkey. So it's not exactly what you would call like a Texas style chili or anything like that. So I hear you, but I don't need to hear you right now. Well, I got everything mixed in there, and hey, it really wasn't that bad. I feel like I made it out to be worse than it was as far as how full this was, because it fit well, and I was able to stir things up and get them incorporated. I'm gonna cover this, and you have 2 options for cook time. You can cook it on low for 8 to 9 hours, or you can cook it on high for 4 hours. I have the 4-hour time window right now because I'm kind of doing this in the middle of the day and I'd like to have it for dinner, so. Okay, we're 4 hours later. Full disclosure, I already made up my little bowl of chili for the thumbnail photo, but let's get you in there to take a look. And it's soupy. It's more of a soup than it is like a thick chili, you know, that's just meat, and that's fine. I like it. You can maybe see by the lighting, it's quite a bit later. And I have my little bowl of chili here. I put some cheese on top. The recipe says the cheese is optional. I do not agree. I think it is essential. So I'm gonna give it a try. You know what? It actually does have quite a nice amount of zest to it. I was worried, you know, maybe it wouldn't. I can tell that it has a decent amount of zest because I can actually like fully taste it. I'm just getting over a cold, so maybe my taste buds aren't quite the same as they normally would be. They're not like completely up to par, but I can definitely taste the chili powder, the black pepper. So there's definitely like a tiny bit of spice here. You could definitely add more though if you wanted. I love using a slow cooker for something like chili or meat sauce, something that uses like ground meat, because I think it really improves the texture quite a bit. And it's, I don't know, like sometimes I think especially ground beef can have kind of like a bouncy texture to it a little bit when you cook it. And this just kind of, I don't know, I can't really describe how it improves the texture. I think it just does. It makes it a little bit more palatable to me. I would say this is a pretty good basic chili recipe. You can add to it, you can change it up a little bit, but this would be great with, you know, maybe some cornbread on a very cold day, something nice to come home to for dinner after a long day out of the house, out at work, whatever you're doing. Before I talk about the book, I want to address something, and that something is this pumpkin, because I know I'm going to get questions about this pumpkin because look at it, it's so cute. So I will tell you, I got it at Target, it was $5 and it was hard to find. I kept getting ads for it in my Instagram feed and I had to travel outside of my normal like Target stores, the ones that are close to me. So good luck if you do get one of these, congratulations. I had to go above and beyond where I normally would, but yes. I just knew if I didn't say anything about this pumpkin, someone would ask me, many someones would probably ask me. I'm going to put them right back there. But anyway, the Fix It and Forget It cookbook. So originally published in 2001, I have the 2002, spiral bound edition. The 2002 has the same recipes as the 2001. And you can see it was a national best-selling cookbook. I know that since this came out, they have spun it off into different genres, I guess. There's an entertaining version. I know that they've made several versions of this cookbook, but the original tried and true, I think, has really become a staple for a lot of people when it comes to slow cooking. I mentioned that the recipes are crowdsourced, so, you know, they are attributed to people. You can see at the top the title, and then it says like who submitted it. And in some cases, like with my mac and cheese that I made, that was submitted by multiple people. And sometimes on those recipes, they will include variations of like, okay, so the basic recipe was submitted by 6 people, and then a few of them, like they do this or they add this. I do love crowdsourced recipes and community cookbooks and things like that because often people are submitting their best stuff. So you're probably gonna get a pretty good recipe. It's just kind of made up of these columns of recipes. I guess the little slow cooker up here at the top kind of counts as an illustration. It is very cute. The cover features a couple of colorful slow cookers, and then you have the back. My copy, it looks like it was originally from Sam's Club, but I bought it at Half Price Books. Actually, let's see. I guess there are a few kind of like little illustrations on the introductory pages to different chapters. Let me see if that changes up here. So there are a few just kind of like tucked in here and there. You know, I think it does vary slightly. Main dishes looks a little different. And then they have these like little drawings of slow cookers. Yeah, this one, like the bean and main dish, it does have a slightly, I mean, they all have a slow cooker in them, but then it has like the beans and everything. And all black and white. No actual like photographs of the food or anything like that. But a very good cookbook, I think a very reliable cookbook. I'm gonna get right into the recipes I made today because I feel like I have a lot to talk about. So the first recipe I made was for macaroni and cheese. They don't call it like so-and-so's mac and cheese because this recipe was submitted by 6 different people, and I can see why. It was really delicious. I did end up taking this to my little craft night that I have with my friends, and they enjoyed it too. And it stayed nice and creamy. Now, I think you could change the consistency on this one a little bit depending on your cheeses. If you're gonna go with like all stretchy cheeses, I like to call it, like a cheddar cheese, rather than any American or Velveeta, the melty cheese, you know, you're gonna get a different texture. I basically went 50-50 and it was perfect for me. It was very creamy. But if you like more of like a baked mac and cheese kind of texture, I think if you went like heavier on the stretchy cheese and lighter on the melty cheese, you might get that. I just like mac and cheese, period. Like I don't care what kind it is. I don't really have a strong preference one way or the other. Just give me some mac and cheese and I'm a happy lady. This was great. It was very easy to make. Most of this stuff, I'm looking, most of this stuff is in my pantry and or fridge at all times. So this would be a great thing, you know, to put together quickly with things that I already have on hand, or if I need to take a quick dish to, I don't know, potluck or to someone's house. Maybe I want to make it if someone, you know, I want to take a meal to someone if they're not feeling well or something they're going through. This would be a great one. I think it's very warm and comforting. It is a crowd pleaser. As for the cook time on this one, I did kind of make a little bit of a call. I mentioned I cooked it on low for an hour and high for an hour, and that worked out just fine for me. You're supposed to cook it on low for 2 to 3 hours. If I had prepped it a little bit earlier, I could have gone completely like 3 hours on low. But the 1 hour on high, 1 hour on low did work for me. So just keep that in mind. I think it can be a little bit of a flexible kind of cook time recipe, but you do want to keep an eye on this one. This is not one of those all day, like let it go kind of recipes. It's so delicious. I'm making this one again, like 100% for sure. The next recipe I made was Marylynn's chili con queso. Marilyn, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's what I have to say to you because I really enjoyed this queso for a lot of reasons. I was able to make it in my little dipper. I cut the recipe in half and I just made that smaller amount and it was wonderful. I did end up taking the queso along with the mac and cheese to my friends. I saved a little bit back in my fridge at home so that I could kind of try these things reheated. I will tell you, after I tried it on camera, but before I took it to my little craft gathering, I did add cayenne pepper. I kind of thought people would want it to be a little bit more zesty than it was. As it is, like listed straight from the recipe, it's not spicy. It's just not. It is tasty, but it's not spicy. I can't really tell you exactly how much cayenne I added. I just shook it in and tasted it until it tasted right. Probably between like half a teaspoon and a teaspoon of cayenne. So whatever your spice level preference is, you can make that adjustment. Or don't, you know, just eat it as is because it does taste good. So aside from the small quantity of queso that I can make with this, the other thing that I really liked about it is that it maintained a very smooth texture. I've made the traditional kind of like just Velveeta and Rotel queso, and that's good too. I love that. But I find that it can kind of get like lumpy, like as it cools or if you refrigerate it and reheat it, sometimes it gets a little bit lumpy. But this one didn't, and I think it's because of that heavy cream in the water and the fact that you mostly use a melty cheese, but then you add a little bit of that stretchy cheddar in there. And it was wonderful. Just, I did reheat this. And again, when I reheated it, it was very smooth. I was very pleased with it, and I will be making this again. And just so you know, I didn't say this before, I'm going to include the recipes as written in the description below my video, but then I will make like a little note underneath each one with like any time adjustments that I made or slight changes or whatever, you know, the time adjustment for the mac and cheese and the like little dipper adjustments, I guess, for the queso. And finally, Joyce's slow cooked chili. This is a ground turkey chili, which I love because I always have a pound or two of ground turkey in my freezer. This was really good. It's a very basic chili. It's a soupier chili, which I enjoy like pretty much all kinds of chili, so that's good. I did reheat this for lunch today, and it was even better than yesterday. And you probably know a lot of chilies, soups, and stews, they tend to even get better over time. So warming this up in the microwave and having it with a little bit of bread for lunch was really great. It was very nice. I love it when you can slow cook a recipe that has like a ground beef or ground turkey, like ground meat in it, because I think it improves the texture. This is no exception. This would also, I think, freeze very well, which is maybe what I'm going to do with the rest of the chili, because even, you know, I cut the recipe in half, but it still made a good amount, even for us. And I can only eat chili for so many days in a row, so we'll see. I may freeze the rest of it and see how that shakes out. Adjust the spice accordingly. What I tasted was pretty good for me. You know, it was zesty. It wasn't like burn your mouth off spicy, but you could definitely tell there were spices in it. Oh, and one thing, back to the mac and cheese. So I reheated all of these recipes. I put some in the fridge and reheated them like a day or two later. They all reheated beautifully, including that mac and cheese, which I didn't say. That also maintained a very smooth and creamy texture even after I microwaved it. All of these recipes are winners, and I would definitely make all of them again. If you love slow cooker recipes, I have an entire playlist and I'll link it in the description down below. I'd like to say a big thank you to my Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to join me over there, I'll leave a link in the description so that you can do that. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.